Enquanto isso, vamos fazer uns react aqui. Deixa eu ver se o Smoke Mid trouxe algum conteúdo pra gente. Aqui, ó. Vambora, hein? Ó, bora fazer o react daqui. Vambora.
Ness decidiu se afastar do competitivo e se dedicar mais às lives. Ele tem opinado bastante sobre diversos assuntos. Inclusive, recentemente até comentou quem seria melhor, o Aspas ou o Dirk.
Durka versus Aspas, who wins? I mean, it's too close to call. I think Aspas edges it very, very slightly. Very slightly. Because Aspas's jet is out of this world, and I think they have an equal raise. Feel me?
E o FNS também participou do episódio mais recente do Plat Chat, onde
eu
eles
prefiro
falaram
Aspas,
bastante
mano.
sobre
Eu
os times
prefiro
do
Aspas
VC
também.
Américas, inclusive comentando sobre a Loud, se a Loud teria dado um downgrade em relação ao ano passado, saca só?
You know,
I'll shut up.
Aspas for a long time.
Anything I say will be used against me.
I was gonna send it to you for the first question.
Dude, what, man? What do you want? They're the best. They're the greatest of all time. Nothing, no one's touching Loud, man.
Olha o medo da torcida brasileira, velho.
To your team, but okay, in the most political way possible that gets you in no hot water whatsoever.
I'll be in hot water, bro.
I am just curious about your very polite and respectful thoughts on the team without Aspas, you know, from your perspective on the outside watching, but also, you know, like theoretically, if you decided to still play this year, and you were competing and you were going up against Loud, how much of a difference is this going to make for the squad?
I think massive, right? And that's giving all credit to the rest of the guys. Like, that's giving credit to SadHack, to his, and basically everyone that's still there. Or sorry, yeah, everyone that's still there. But the thing is, Aspas is just that good, right? I have that much of a stock on that player that losing him isn't. He's not a player that's replaceable, right? So obviously, by
Cara,
objectively looking at it,
acho que a gente vai ver, a gente vai escutar tudo, né, do que ele fala. Mas isso é um ponto que a gente bateu bastante, inclusive no Revelando Área, aqui nas lives que a gente faz. O Aspas é insubstituível, mano. Spacca, por que ele é insubstituível? Pelo fato de ele ser o melhor duelista do mundo, mano. Tá ligado? Tipo, o Demon é bom? É bom, mano. O Demon, de fato, esse ano, o ano passado, ele foi um grande jogador. Mas o Aspas, ele é mais constante internacionalmente, né? O Aspas ganhou Champions, o Aspas ganhou Américas. Então, assim, quando a galera compara, o Spacca, o QCK, o Aspas, mano, não tem como comparar, porque o Aspas, ele chegou num nível de desempenho de duelista que você não tem. E a constância que você não tem em nenhum lugar no mundo, velho. Você só tem o Aspas fazendo isso. Então não dá pra comparar. O QCK é melhor de... Não dá. O Aspas, ele de fato é insubstituível, velho.
you can't say that this team will be as good as they were last year. How can you just say that? I don't think you can, objectively. So based off of that, when I look at teams like NRG that are formed, when I look at teams that I live that are formed, how am I supposed to put Loud ahead of them? I can't. So that's why, to me, they're slightly gonna like a tier below that, and you know, we'll see how they do. But again, we haven't seen. I have no scrim results from them. I don't know how they're playing. I don't know what their comps are, or anything like that. So little information to go by. But yeah, I don't think they're gonna be nearly as good without Aspas. Now I'm fucked.
If Loud had been playing last year with QCK as the duelist and they'd done everything else exactly the same, it's hard to believe that they would have been as good. It really is. I think the only way that you can justify putting Loud as still an elite tier team is that you have enormous amounts of faith that SsadHack is going to be able to rebuild the entire way that this team functions. Like, previously, they were loading a lot of responsibility and resources into Aspas and having him be a priority player. It was like Aspas and Les were the two people that you would see being put in positions to massively succeed in this team. And now I just don't think they're going to do that with QCK. They've spoken about the fact that they didn't want a player that was a direct replacement for Aspas. They are not going to try and put all of their eggs in the QCK basket and have him set up as like a star opper. I just don't believe it. But I don't see what the vision is. And I'm willing to give a lot of credit to Sadak that he's going to be able to come up with an interesting system for this team, but I don't know what the hell it's going to be. I can't think of how.
Oh yeah,
you would
I
make
know
this
it's gonna
team
be
really succeed.
less to do list. I'm on board.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
put less on Jet, I'll shut
Dude,
the fuck
maybe.
up right now. I'll be like, all right, you guys got that. Now we can see some real shit because I know how insane less is. So it's like, if you're capable of doing that, then obviously it's so unrealistic and it's never gonna happen. So yeah, I just don't know. I can't put them above NRG and Lev. Like,
Cara, essa parada de ele não pode colocar a Loud na frente da Energy e da Leviathan é relativo também, tá ligado? Da Leviathan, mano, eu até consigo entender, porque você tá trazendo. Você tá comparando, tipo, o Aspas que entrou, o Kon, que é atual campeão mundial, King e Mazino são muito bons, o Tex é um excelente jogador também. Eu até entendo ele colocar isso pelo fato dos players que entraram na Leviathan. Agora, da Energy, mano, eu não sei se a Loud starta o ano tão atrás da Energy assim por conta do Ethan e do Demon, tá ligado? Tipo, mano, beleza, eu acho que Crash, Smarved e Victor são um trio muito forte, mano. Acho que os caras são muito bons mesmo. Mas eles não jogaram ainda, mano. E a Loud mudou um jogador, né? Não, e tipo assim, mesmo que essa mudança signifique trocar todo o sistema de jogo, né? Os caras até comentaram, pô, o Aspas jogava de um jeito diferente, o QCK talvez não vai ter essa. Talvez não, com certeza não vai jogar da mesma maneira, próprios jogadores da Loud. Cara, não é questão de hate ou não, aqui é opinião mesmo. Eu acho que atrás da Leviathan. Eu até acho justo, por conta do Aspas, mano. Por conta do Aspas. Agora, atrás da Energy, eu não sei não, mano.
I
Sei
just
não,
can't.
francamente, velho.
I think it's interesting because the last 2 years they've obviously faced off-season changes with Tenkata and Saucy leaving last year and whatever. But this year it's different in terms of what they've chosen to go for, right? Last year was a bunch of young players, build them up, kind of playing the same sort of system. Here, they've completely accepted the idea that they can't replace Aspas. And I think that's a good sign. With that being said, like, yeah, it's going to be tough to even figure out how to continue from there. But I think you're probably going to see them move away from a lot of the like meta defining stuff that they tried to do with Harbor Viper. I think they're going to try to play just a lot more solid in general.
But one thing I do like about them is the fact that they innovate so much, right? That's what's different about them.
Yeah, they do.
That no one else in NA has done to that extent. Viper Harbor, we directly stole that from them last year. And they were the only teams to do that. Before that, they were playing Gecko on Split. Like, no one had even thought about that. And that's the old Gecko. So it's like, they are not afraid to change up their comps, which will make them very, very unpredictable and hard to anti-strat. So for teams like NRG and coaches like Chet, who are heavy on anti-stratting, that will be very difficult to deal with. So in that sense, maybe they have a little bit more of an advantage in that sense. But
I just think the player.
Isso aqui é real, né, mano? A Loud é o time, talvez, do mundo que mais tenta trazer coisas novas. Acho que do mundo é difícil, porque a Paper X eu acho que é um time também pra gente ficar de olho, né? Não dá pra gente ser amplo assim, do mundo, mas do alto nível, né? Do alto nível competitivo, a Loud foi a única equipe que conseguiu fazer isso, cara, com resultados bem. Talvez ano passado a Paper X, né? Mas a Paper X ela joga no estilo de jogo, mano, que não é tipo assim, não é que eles inventam um meta. Só funciona com eles, tá ligado? Diferente da Loud, mano, em que eles colocam Viper e Harbor e 70% dos times do cenário podem copiar a comp deles porque é possível. Agora, a Paper X não dá pra copiar a comp dos caras, mano. Não dá pra você, vou colocar a Reina. Não, mano, a Reina na mão do Sampling só funciona porque ele é muito bom de mira, tá ligado? Então, tipo...
That they have still, Les Kawanzine, like, those guys are insane. Kawanzine is fucking nuts, right? Like, he's still very good, and he still has room to grow. Tui's as well, like, yeah, he had some rough spots. I think that spoke a little bit more to the environment.
Mano, eu ainda não consegui enxergar essa parada deles que, tipo assim, desse rolê do Twist ter performado mal no passado, velho. Não consigo, mano. Tipo, pra mim, dentro da ideia de jogo, dentro da adaptação do Twist, ele foi um controlador bom. Tipo assim, não acho que o cara foi... Nossa, o Twist, pô, pica pra caralho. Não, mas assim, em nenhum momento ele comprometeu, cara. De verdade, assim. O pessoal fala, pô, Spacca, mas no lock-in... não sei o que. Não, mano. Eu acho que dentro da ideia de contexto, eu não acho que o Twist foi abaixo pros caras sempre mencionarem que o Twist, faltou. Não acho, velho.
That they were in throughout the year than anything else, but he had the best harbor still. Like, to my mind, he was still like the best harbor of the year. So these guys,
Aqui eu não acho. Aqui eu discordo dele. Eu acho que o melhor Harbor que eu vi, tá? Jogando em alto nível foi o som da Energy, mano. Eu acho que o Twiz, ele mostrou que pode jogar, tipo, abaixo do som, talvez do Twiz mesmo, mas eu acho que o som jogou muito de Harbor o ano passado, mano. Eu acho que ele foi muito bom com esse agente, mano.
can still brag, and I think it's crazy not to think about them as contenders for these international tournaments and as contenders to win a split. Despite the fact that, yeah, I still put NRG, I still put Leviathan higher than them, but this is a team that will for sure still be very, very, very good. And
The weird thing about them is just that they've loaded the team with so many supportive elements compared to, or not even that, but they have a lot of supportive elements, and then they also have their star, like their biggest fragging players are playing roles where you can't always put them in position to succeed in a round. Like, you can't always ensure that Les is in the place to be able to influence the round when he's playing his current role. I mean, maybe you can if Chamber comes back into the meta, but it's more difficult than doing that with a duelist. And the same with Cowanzine. You can't always put Cowanzine in a place where he's going to be able to go crazy, especially with Sky not being as available. So they just have a very fundamentally different team to most other teams. They don't have the... They're going to have to rely much more on how they play off each other and trying to come up with unique ideas and unique compositions, I think. That, I mean, what do you think about potentially, like, if they started innovating a Chamber Cypher kind of meta?
Like I said, if they have that in their arsenal, which they've shown that they're capable of switching up comps like that, then by all means, like, they can definitely have some sort of an edge going into BO3s versus teams. But that's just, you're relying on a surprise factor at that point. Like I said, Aspas was no surprise factor. You knew exactly what was coming, and it was still hard to stop.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of scared in terms of like the innovation factor that they have. Yeah, they have the you know, they have the people to be able to do that sort of stuff, but the flexibility factor I feel like almost always came from Sadak, and I just like it's tough for him to constantly be that guy at this point.
Well,
right?
I mean,
QCK is going to add some flex factor.
Yeah, Quick has played everything at this point. I mean, he played duels for a super long time. He played a lot of Chamber too. I mean,
I'm actually curious. You think you will only see this guy on Duelist? Probably not, right? I think we're gonna see.
I don't think so. Even
He'll
on
be flexing around
previous,
a ton, I think.
Yeah, on previous Furia iterations over the past couple of years, there were times where he was playing like Jet and then other support agents, Chamber, other support agents. He was playing like Raze at times and then a support agent on a different
Remember
map.
that Tui's used to be a duelist as well before he joined his team to play Smokes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They could actually just completely crush our expectations of what roles people are going to be playing.
Yep.
They could be coming out playing whatever. It's really difficult to tell.
I mean, when Quick was playing Jet and all that, he was a fucking wild player. He was a really aggro.
The only one we don't see, right, changing is less just because he was world class at his role.
I guess.
Cowanzine for me as well.
Yeah, true.
Right.
Sova was insane.
Cowanzine pra mim também, ele tá no prime aí dos iniciadores, velho.
I have a question, though. I have a juicy question. What if Loud doesn't do well and Pancata is allowed to leave Sentinels? You think Pancata goes to Loud?
I think if they wanted to try to move Tui's into a different role, or possibly even less into a different role, then Pancata might actually be a really good pickup for them. But that's the kind of like mid-season adjustment that you would see if they... The thing is, though, Loud, at this point, they must have been practicing for a while. Like, they must know their own identity as a team by now. Not that I've heard...
Cara, pergunta interessante aqui, hein? E aí, chat? Eu acho que não, velho. Eu acho que... Mesmo que o Pancada... Depois, no meio da temporada, fique free agent, se ele sair da Sentinels, eu não acho que a Loud vai trazer ele, não, mano. Não no meio da temporada, mano. Acho que a Loud vai insistir do início ao fim com esse time. Posso estar falando a maior groselha aqui, né, mano? Tipo, eu não tô lá dentro, eu não sei o quanto a pressão existe pra resultado. Mas eu, particularmente, não acho, velho, que eles trariam Pancada de volta, mano. Não acho mesmo.
anything about it, but they must have a good idea about whether or not they're going to be successful at the start of the season already.
Mas e aí, qual a sua opinião sobre tudo isso?
Qual a sua opinião sobre isso, né? Aí, velho. Então, trocamos essa ideia. Olha, eu achei que o nosso amigo Finesse aqui foi bem justo, né? Nas comparações. Eu acho que talvez colocar a Energy à frente da Loud por conta por conta da saída do Aspas, né, tal. Acho que a Leviathan eu entendo, mas a Energy não. Mas ele foi contido até, cara. Foi bem justo, né? Ele não foi delusional, igual muita gente é, né, cara? Uma outra pergunta. No mundo onde a Fúria tem a possibilidade de mudar a line no segundo split, a Pancada esteja livre, ele teria espaço nessa Fúria? Cara, eu acho que o Pancada ele tem espaço em qualquer time do Brasil, tá ligado? Pelo nível de jogo. Que estão nas ligas internacionais, né? A parada é, cara... Tipo... Eu acho que só se um time for muito mal, mano. Tipo, muito mal. Sei lá, velho. Porque assim, mano... Loud... Eu nem vou colocar Loud. Eu vou colocar... Nem vamos falar da Loud. Vamos falar da Fúria. A Fúria trouxe o Havok e o Liazzi, mano. Nitidamente, cara, você tá trazendo 2 jogadores novos, por mais que o Liazzi tenha uma experiência muito grande, e o Havok também é muito novo. Então, assim, eu não sei qual que é a expectativa da Fúria nesse ano nas ligas, tá ligado? Mas passar por uma turbulência é algo que com certeza tá nos planos caso eles passem. E pelo que eu conheço a Fúria, cara, eu não acho que a primeira opção deles é mudar jogador, tá ligado? Tipo, eu não acho. Sabendo que você tá trazendo 2 jogadores muito novos, mano. Agora, por exemplo, no MIBR, eu já acho talvez uma realidade maior caso o MIBR comece, sei lá, cara, o MIBR perca 2 no kickoff, mano, temporada de treino dele está ruim. Eu até acho válido você trazer um cara pique pancada. Mas não sei, mano. Não sei mesmo, assim, porque eu acho que, cara, se algum time desses times é foda, velho.